Welcome back, everyone. We're here for another episode of The Shannon Show. Hope you guys are having a good weekend and Happy New Year. First episode of 2021 of The Shannon Show. Enjoy. And today's guest, once again, we have Carolina Rivera. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing good. I'm glad to have you back on the show. It's gonna be a little bit of a different episode, but glad to get to it. We have there's a lot of college guides out there on the internet for high schoolers on YouTube, whatnot. But today we're gonna try and direct it more towards military kids and how you can use that to kind of that background in your college application process and how you can elevate yourself on applications through essays. We're going to cover testing and scholarships, all sorts of good stuff that Carolina and I have both had experience on. You did it while you were actually in Japan, right?
I did.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so much fun.
And I went through my application process and everything the year I got back to the States. So, I mean, we're somewhat qualified for this, I would say. This type of episode. I would, yeah. Sounds good. And you now going to William and Mary, in case no one has seen episode 3. I know it was a while back, guys. But how's that going?
Yeah, I mean, 2020 has been something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've been going online, and I'm going to we have like another campus in DC, so I'm taking part of that program this next semester. I'm gonna be doing an internship full time and then taking a couple classes. But yeah, I mean,
That's awesome.
my first year was like, pretty awesome. But yeah, second year I pretty much stayed home and did classes online. So honestly, kind of sucked, but I'm excited to move on and
get back into it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds good. And I have no idea how long this video is going to be, but let's just get into it. What are the first steps that you took? We can start with you, or we can start with me, whatever. Did you start looking at college stuff? When did you start getting interested in colleges?
Okay, so I started getting interested in 10th grade.
Yeah.
This was like right before I moved back to Okinawa. This is gonna be like my dad's third tour, and I knew that I wanted to do like foreign service. I had met like a diplomat that my dad, I think she was like a reservist, and she worked with my dad a couple times. And she came over to the house one day and she was telling me like, like all the perks, all the benefits, and I was like, oh my gosh, this sounds so cool. Like, I think just being a military kid, it's so easy to like be like, I guess, addicted to traveling.
Yeah.
And so like that's just like, yeah, I knew that. I was like, she's like, you basically get paid to travel. It's like being in the military but not having to put on the uniform. I knew that I'm not cut out to be in the military, but I knew I wanted to do something similar. But yeah, so I wanted to do that, and she's like, you would be perfect for Georgetown. I think that's where I think that was her alma mater. I don't know how to say it.
That's good.
And so I was like, before we went to Okinawa, I scheduled a tour for Georgetown University. And I went there, and it was amazing. Like, it was so nice, and I'm sure I would have different thoughts now, but I was like starry-eyed 10th grader. I was like, oh, this is amazing. And then so yeah, that was like the only school I toured. That's one of the that's another thing about living overseas. Like, you don't get to tour any of the schools, so like I had to rely on a bunch of like VR or virtual reality like tours of the schools. It's okay, but it's not like the same feel. I know a lot of people, they say they want to go to one school, but then when they visit it, they're like, oh no, I don't want to go here. And really? I mean, I don't know about you, but I didn't have that. Like, I kind of just went with my gut. Like, William and Mary, I'd never even heard of it a month before I applied to it.
That's good though, that like they have like online experiences for kids to take part in. Yeah. Whether it's virtual reality or whatever, like just a video. It's better than nothing.
I mean, I guess to answer the question, you first want to know, like, you don't have to know what you want to do at all. Like, some people in college don't even know what they want to do.
True, that's true.
Like, you'll find that a lot of people, until they graduate, don't even know what they want to do. But just have, like, a slight idea, because it's really important when you're, like, looking for schools. Because if you want to do business, and then there's not a business major or business program in the school that you're applying to, like, there's not really a point to go to that school. Exactly. It's not going to help you at all. I don't really think that what you major in like nowadays is like a huge factor anymore when you're trying to get a job. But like, yeah, if you want to do business and they don't have business at the school you're going to, like, don't do it. So yeah, that's what you want to look for. Like, if they have like quality programs for what you want to do, and like the area, if the area matters to you. Yeah, that's how I started. Just like looking up on Google a bunch of different schools. Yeah, and asking a lot of people, you know, what did they recommend? And then yeah, I mean, shout out to Mr. Kasner because
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but like my parents didn't go to college, so no one in my family knew anything about like this whole process. So
Yeah.
Mr. Kasner was a goat.
Very clutch. Yeah, he was a good counselor. I didn't have him, but I wish I did. Yeah, so that I did something kind of similar. You just have to start. You just have to make a list, essentially. Like
Yeah.
you just have to get it all out, get all of your ideas out. It's the hardest part, I think, is just starting because it seems so daunting.
Yeah.
Because there's like so much that goes into it. It really is a big process, but I think just getting started, talking to people, learning new information, and just going from there is great for just a way to get started. And I think deciding on a major, fortunately for you, you kind of knew right away generally what you wanted to do. And like you said, that's not a huge deal. If you don't know, you can wait until obviously you don't want to wait until you're in college to decide. But I mean, if that's what it comes to, like it's not the end of the world. Like you can find your
I
passion
mean,
and you
it's a
don't have to be
joke.
right away.
Like, I don't know about other schools, but like at my school, every single person who comes in want to do medical, or like a lot of my friends want to do neuroscience or like biology. Now everybody's doing like economics, business,
It's crazy how it changes.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, they're like, I'm not gonna change anything, and then all of them end up changing. So
yeah,
yeah,
one semester later, it's crazy. And that's not meant to intimidate anyone who wants to pick a challenging major. It's just sometimes you get there and you realize, hey, this isn't for me. It sounded cool, but it's not for me. And there's nothing wrong with that either. Next, so touring campuses. I got to tour some colleges whenever I got back to the States because it was my senior year, which I think is one of the most important things you can do. Because like you said, kids get there and they're like, yeah, this isn't what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
It's great. They have like these group tours or the group tours. You have like a tour leader who's a student most of the time or an alumni. You can answer all your questions. And whenever you're there, just don't be afraid to ask questions because you're gonna be spending a good chunk of your next 4 years there. So there's nothing wrong with getting familiar with where you're gonna be. Did you go to any like college fairs or like information nights beforehand? I know they had some at Kubi. Did you engage in any of those?
I went to one at Kubi. I don't know. I don't think I learned that much.
Yeah,
honestly,
there's not that much. Yeah.
From the college fairs. I learned a lot about like the Naval Academy, and I was like this close. Like that was like
really.
I had gone through the entire process. I was about to go, and then I don't know. I chickened out. What can I say? I chickened out. I was like, I'm not cut out for this. I'm too sensitive. I don't want people yelling at me. Yeah. But yeah, definitely, yeah. If you're on a military base, yeah, and you want to do military school, like those college fairs, they're very informative. I'm not, I'm not saying that they don't help at all, but yeah.
Yeah, they're a little more broad, I think. So if you don't know at all what you want to do, I think it's a great place to go to just to walk around and be like, oh, wow, like I get what each college kind of means, symbolizes what it's like there, even if you're living in a place like Okinawa. So did you consider any ROTC? I said you said the Naval Academy. And then I don't know too much about that. I haven't had anyone on the show that is doing that, I don't think. Hopefully I didn't forget anyone. But that's something that I just don't know a lot about. So you guys will have to go somewhere else for that. I'm sorry. I know it's a military kid podcast. I feel terrible.
A lot of schools, so when you're applying, they do have that option like, hey, if you want to learn more about our ROTC program, click here, or call this person. When schools see that, you're interested, they'll have like recruiters send you emails and stuff. Like I got a bunch of emails I know my school's Army, so I got an email from the one of the recruiters there, and he's like, hey, we'll pay for your entire school tuition if you do this, blah blah blah. It was kind of the same concept of the Naval Academy at my school. They pay for your tuition and everything, and then you just have to serve like I think 3 or 5 years. and that's one of the contributing factors of why I didn't go to Naval Academy, is I didn't like the idea of committing 5 years of, and then I was like, I had one of my dad's friends told me that you do have a choice, but a lot of times they put you where you're needed. So I just didn't want to be
Yeah.
sent somewhere where like, and I didn't want to be doing something that I had no interest whatsoever, you know, kind of like, you know, I don't know. I was being very picky choosy, but I was
Yeah.
like, I don't want to do that. But
It's a
yeah, if
tough
you're
commitment for
okay,
sure.
yeah, it's a full commitment. Like if you're okay with, you know, committing 5 years, you know, after college, and for free education, like, you know, so do it. Um, I kind of I lucked out. Honestly, if I didn't have a GI Bill, I would have done it.
Hmm.
But you know, my dad, I've been using my dad's GI Bill, and I've gotten a
Yeah.
lot of scholarships. So my financial situation hasn't really been a huge contributing factor to like, oh, maybe I should go to this school because it's
Sure.
financially smarter. But definitely, it's a really good choice. ROTC, one of the, you know, any of the military schools. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's a lot of kids who just they're either interested in doing that or it's something they kind of have to do
Yeah.
in terms of financially. So there's nothing wrong. I think Kenneth is actually doing that. He's deciding that he's gonna go to school and whatnot. We don't talk about Kenneth. Anyways, we were uh ROTC. Yes, the GI Bill. Make sure to talk to your parents about that. Just kind of get
Yes.
informed on the whole process of applying it and using it and making sure you're paying your tuition and whatnot with
Yeah.
it. So
I think,
I
I don't know about your school, but we have like a veteran benefits officer.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
and
they
like,
usually have their own department. That's
yeah, like they have their own department. Oh yeah, that's one thing. Check if your school's a yellow ribbon or if they even accept
yeah,
GI
yeah, yeah.
Bills. Yellow ribbon, I think it's honestly not really that helpful. They put you in like kind of like a raffle, put your name in a raffle, and
Mhm.
I know I'm at my school is like 4 kids were chosen to get like free tuition.
Yeah,
Um, out of like I don't know how many, but I mean it could be you, you know. But yeah.
yeah, and then of course there's also the FAFSA.
FAFSA, yeah.
Sure, you had to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long process. It's kind of annoying to fill out, but in the end you can get some aid as well from that, which is
Yeah.
helpful. So make sure to fill that out, get that done, talk about the GI
Soon as
Bill.
possible.
Yes. And then one more thing before we talk about the Common App and Coalition and all the essays and stuff is NCAA stuff. So if you're a student athlete looking to play college sports, make sure to get on that as soon as possible. Get on their website, register, get on it, talk to coaches. That's
Mhm.
something that as soon as you get into your senior year, get right on it.
Yeah.
And yeah, good luck with that as well. And then now did you only Common App?
I did
That's right.
coalition too.
You did Coalition as well? I only did Common Apps. I don't know too much about Coalition, but I know that those are the two options that you have for your applications. They communicate with a lot of different schools. So let's start with the essay portion. That's kind of like the big thing. Everyone wants to know your Common
Mhm.
App or Coalition essay that you send to pretty much every single school. Do you want to share what you wrote yours about or something that you put into your essay?
Um, for me, I just kind of want to put out there, like, you know, being well traveled, a military kid.
Yeah,
It's like a really good background to have because
mhm,
you know you develop so many good qualities as a
for sure.
person from all these experiences. But I do think that it's something that is overused.
Yeah, I
It
heard the same
depends.
thing.
Honestly, it depends on what school you're going to. Like the school that I applied to, William and Mary, Georgetown, all those kids are military kids. All those kids are
Really?
like kids of diplomats or kids of foreign service officers, or a lot of them come from, you know, parents who have government backgrounds. So honestly, like a topic like that is not that like unique unless you have, I mean, you put your little flair, your writing flair into it.
Yeah.
You know, it could be an awesome paper, but like, um, uh, for me, I did my identity as
Hmm.
like a huge factor in my essay. How I'm Hispanic.
Yeah.
You know, I have a little Filipino in me, but I'm American. I grew up in Japan. I have so
Yeah.
like it's a lot of cultural like confusion. Um,
Sure.
you know, I like having that multicultural background, being a third world third world kid. You know, connecting with like some parts of like, this culture that you're not really supposed to, not really
Mm-hmm.
understanding like another part. Yeah, I think just like growing up very like, I guess like different, all my, my family, all my cousins grew up in the same area. Um,
Yeah, that's
not,
really cool.
yeah, and then, me and my brother are living overseas in Japan. Knowing more about Japan and being shocked. I lived in Japan for over like 13 years, so that was
Yeah.
a good majority of my life. And then coming back to the United States and being very like overwhelmed, even though I am American,
Mm-hmm.
which is weird. You would think, being American would be so much easier to adjust, but it was like, honestly, it felt harder to adjust to like the United States. Like, I went to like a couple years of middle school and a couple years of high school in South Carolina, and it was like a huge like slap in the face,
Yeah.
like compared like to school in Okinawa to like South Carolina, public school in
Mm-hmm.
South Carolina. So yeah, I wrote about that aspect of my life, like my identity and it being kind of confusing a little bit as a
Absolutely,
military
yeah.
kid, whatever.
Yeah, and that's something about you that's unique and also something that you can write about and share. And it's something that kind of distinguishes you from other military kids as well. So not only are you having that military kid background, but you really want one other thing about
Mhm.
you and your experiences and places you've been that you can pick out of that military kid lifestyle and expand on. Because you're
Yeah,
right, I think whatever school you go to, there's going to be a lot of essays like that. Like, hey, I moved around, whether it's military or not, there's going to be kids
yeah.
who've had to move around a lot. So I think if there's something else about you, whether it's something you learned or something culturally or
Yeah,
your
it
identity,
doesn't have to be anything huge, like literally. And then
it doesn't have to
I
be
have.
that deep. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that deep. Yeah. I think they just want to. One, they want to see your skills in writing, and
Hmm.
two, they want to know. They want to know about you. Like they want to know what you're passionate about, or what did you learn from that experience? Like what did I learn from?
Yeah.
I guess. I at this point I'm like I kind of like I'm like fuck labels like
Mhm.
or like just like there's not. I think one of the biggest things that like I grew up with that kind of like made me super insecure was like people especially when I moved to South Carolina. I never really had this issue in Okinawa or Japan,
Yeah.
but people being like, oh, you're not Hispanic enough, you're too white, or like whenever I try to hang out with white people, they're like, you're too Hispanic. I never fit in.
Really.
Like there's always so many labels, and I hated that. Like I hated like not being this and people telling me what I am and what I'm not. Um, and that none of that was
Mhm.
my fault. That's just kind of how it was. But no, I mean, what I learned from it is what I put in my essay. Kind of like it doesn't really matter. But yeah,
Yeah.
I literally and then I had another essay where like it was for William and Mary, and it was like tell us a funny story. Like it literally yeah, like you can like the personal essay you can literally write about anything. And I wrote a story of basically how clumsy I am. Like I wrote a
Really.
story, yeah, and I honestly it was like one
Agreed.
of the best essays I've ever written. Like so it doesn't have to be deep at all. Like
Yeah.
literally, yeah, it just I don't know what that key is to like making a good essay, but I know that it makes such a difference. I have one of my friends that was helping apply. He actually got into William and Mary. He
Hmm.
had a really low GPA and he was worried about his SAT score. Um, and I was like looking over his essay, and like his story is so awesome, and like he put it in his essay, and like I honestly think that's what changed everything. Like when
Yeah.
you're like scared about your GPA or your SAT score, like you
It can
can you
elevate
can
it
make up a lot of that, with your essay.
with a good essay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And one last thing about the essays is don't be afraid to like be kind of like has to fit in this box. Like you might go read other kids' essays. Don't feel like you have to like conform to a certain essay
Yeah.
style. Feel free to be creative and stuff because like at the end of the day, this is a real person reading this and they're probably
Mhm.
bored of a lot of other essays. So if you want to stand out, go ahead, go
Yeah.
for it. I quoted Ricky Bobby in one of my essays. I didn't get into that school, but I mean, but I mean, like you just have to go for it sometimes, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Understand the moral of the story. Go for it, guys. Anyways. Now, is there anything part of the Common App as well? You have to put in like all of your high school achievements, things you've participated in, sports, leaderships, clubs, activities, all sorts of stuff.
Mhm.
Is there I know you participated in a lot. Like you did a lot of stuff in high school, if I remember correctly. Like everything, Caroline is a part of it. It doesn't even matter what it is. Like she's at every meeting. She's always everywhere all the time. And what are some important things you can do in high school, like I guess in general, to stand
Okay.
out on your Common App?
Don't do what I did. um, I totally overwhelmed myself. Like I did way too
Really?
much, and I found myself like half-assing a lot of things.
Mm,
So, and a lot of colleges will tell you this, like especially if you're applying to a really competitive school, everybody and their mama is gonna be doing everything. Like every, like you
yeah.
think I was bad? Like go to William and Mary and then like read the I'm being so serious. Like some people are, and they were so proud of this. They're like, I was in this club, I was in that club, I had 3.5 or 4.0 GPA. Like they were bragging like to the full extent. It was like me times 20.
Times
But a
20.
lot of a lot of times they don't like they want like they it's I feel like it's more like inspiring or more like interesting if you really put in your all into like one thing. Like if you can
Hmm.
talk about so much about one thing and and they see how much you've contributed to that one club, like like
Yeah.
I don't really have a good example, but that I think that's so much more admirable than doing like every single club at school, showing that
Yeah.
you put in work in several different things. I don't think there's anything wrong with like being like I was in NHS, student council. I don't think there's anything wrong with being in multiple clubs, but if you find yourself being overwhelmed and like myself, like I was half-assing a lot of things and
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I like it was like a success, for my resume or like, on paper, but I didn't feel successful, I guess. Like I didn't feel good about that achievement. Um
Yeah.
so definitely like yeah, I'm trying to think of like I know I had a friend who like her one thing, we don't have it at Okinawa or like in Kubasaki, but it was like DECA. It's like a business
I
organization
think
or
I've heard of it. Yeah.
yeah, it's like they have it at a bunch of high schools in the States, and she created her own like store in school, and a lot of those profits like went to like the community, like the marginalized community, or like
Yeah.
those who are food insecure. Like that's a huge thing you can put on
That is
your resume.
huge.
Yeah, like one thing that's really cool, and then two, like if they see that you're putting all your effort and you made all these contributions, to your school and your community, like that's
Yeah.
awesome, like to put on. Versus
Absolutely.
like you half-ass a million different things, like
Hmm.
that's cool. Yeah.
I think if there's anything that you can get involved with in your freshman year of high school and do it for full 4 years and show like continually
Hmm.
building on something within a group, I think
Yeah.
that's also really important. I didn't do any of that, but I participate in some things. And there's also some things that I think are a little like don't get too broken up. Like say you don't get an NHS or something. Like it's
Yeah.
not the end of the world. Like you can do other things and you'll be perfectly fine.
Hmm.
And I just don't get too stuck on doing one thing or this is the end of the world. Just continue to try to better yourself in your
Hmm.
application and it's going to be okay, I think. So now the SAT, how many times did you take it? And
uh
when did you take it for the first time?
I was behind the curve on the SAT.
Really?
um well, I was going by the deadlines in the States. Like the States, they have a
Yeah.
bunch of dates that you can take it, but in Okinawa you only have two.
Right.
You only have
Yes.
like
It
one in
is
the
lesser.
winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, one in the winter and then one in the spring. And
Hmm.
so, but I didn't like again, like I'm stupid and I didn't know
You,
that. And
but
so I waited literally to the last minute. I took one in the spring of junior year,
mhm,
and of course it had to be during the week of when I was going to DC
of
for the
course.
JSHS like
Of course.
national
Yeah.
symposium. So I had to go to like a local school there, and I took it. And that was like one of the like worst mistakes because I was not prepared at all. I was preparing for my symposium, and I wasn't really studying for the
Yeah.
SAT. Surprisingly though, I did higher on that one than on the next one I actually studied.
Oh,
But
wow.
the good thing though is a lot of schools, they let you super score. So like if you did
Yes, that's
really
true.
well on one subject and then you didn't do well on like the next test for that
Hmm.
subject, you can use that score. And then basically you just use whatever score for like math or reading. ACT, I don't really know how that works. I didn't take it. Um,
Yeah.
but I remember I did really, really well second time for reading, but then it went down a little bit for math, so it affected my
Gotcha.
score. So I used that reading score and then I used my last math score. And yeah, I honestly, that was one of the things that brought me a huge amount of anxiety, is because I was going for a lot of competitive schools, and my SAT was not cutting it. So that's again like where you have to like, I don't know, put in so much effort in like the essays, polishing your resume. Yeah.
Yeah, so I took it 3 times total, I believe. I took it beginning of my junior year, end of junior, and the beginning of senior year as well, just one more time. And I got the same score twice on my first 2 times I took it. So I was very discouraged about that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it sucks because it's like $100 or something, but
Yeah.
you can take it as many times as you need, or you think that you can take it again and have the potential to get a higher score.
Yeah.
Take it all the way up until your senior year. Like there's no one's stopping you. And colleges, some things that kids get mixed up is colleges don't see your bad scores. So
Yeah.
you talked about super
You
scoring.
only send in what you want. Yeah.
Exactly. So kids might be like, well, that's an okay score. I don't want to take it again because what if I get lower and they see that? That's not the case. You send your best one. You could super score it. They don't have to see your bad scores. Perfectly fine. And in terms of the ACT, if you like take the SAT twice, like me, for example, and you get the same score twice, some kids might prefer to take the ACT after that. And just because it's a different test, give them opportunity to maybe score higher. And you can translate the scores, like how does my SAT score translate if this was an ACT score? So that can be something you can look into as well. In terms of preparing, did you prepare? How did you prepare? How did you study? You said you had some anxiety about that. Wow.
The first time I didn't study, I just kind of, honestly, I didn't really take it that seriously. I did it because I was told that the SAT was like up to Algebra 2, and I was like, oh, like I'm way past that, like.
Yeah, so you're like, oh, whatever, it's
Easy,
fine.
like whatever. I was like, and then I really felt stupid when I got my score back. Honestly though, it's like you think you know something. It's really about studying for the SAT, not studying for English or math. It's about knowing how to navigate the test. So I think
It's
the
like its
best way
own
to
game,
prepare is that,
right?
yeah, it's definitely and if you're not even a good test taker in the beginning, like yeah, this is a good tip for you. Like know how the test works. It's about like beating the test. It's about taking the SAT. Getting like those books, like the SAT prep books.
Yeah.
Those have like SAT like formed questions, like how they would look on the SAT. So that's one of the best ways. And then Khan Academy. Honestly, I did it, and I liked Khan Academy more. My parents got me this program. It was like online for like $60. Literally, you don't need to do all that. I would have gotten higher, or I would have gotten the same score just taking Khan Academy.
Yeah.
And not paying $60 because a lot of these programs, they say they guarantee the score or whatever. But throughout those programs, they have it depends on how much you paid to. I paid for like the cheapest one. They would give you questions, right? And then if you got it wrong, they would make you retake the quiz. But the next quiz was the same question. So it didn't really help me like in understanding, the concept. So yeah, I think Khan Academy is like a huge good like tool to use. One thing that I didn't like, that's one of the disadvantages that I had in like Oki is like I could not find any tutors. Like there are no tutors in Okinawa, whereas like here, like my parents put my brother in a tutoring. He was doing, he wasn't doing that well in math, so they got him a math tutor. Now he's doing really well. Well, I didn't, we didn't have that in Japan, which really sucked.
It's limited. Yeah.
It's very limited. Like I know I found like one of my friend's moms. She helped me study. And we paid her like like I don't know how much we paid her, but like I would meet her like once a week. But it wasn't like the same, as having like a tutor. Yeah. Honestly, I really think tutors are like I don't know. You should get a tutor.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with getting a tutor. You don't. If you get a tutor, you're not stupid. You're smart for getting a tutor. I would say that.
No. Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, I think I was tutoring kids in chemistry, so that says enough about Okinawa tutoring. And we all know how my AP Chem turned out. So.
Oh my lord!
It is what it is.
I wish I just never even showed up for that test. I should have just stayed home.
I wish. Why did we even show up on the first day of class? What were we thinking? We were probably scaring people. Take AP Chemistry. It's good for you. Take it. Do it.
I didn't know it was gonna be that hard. I got like I was like, this is easy. Like, and even no, and you don't even believe me, but Miss Calvin, she was like, oh yeah, definitely, you should definitely take AP Chem. And then look, she was so disappointed in me.
Yeah. She all thought we were smart until we took that first test.
Oh my gosh.
Except for what, like Abraham? Anyways, back to the SAT. Back to the SAT. You were talking about, I think a lot of it is not, it's not that the SAT is hard, it's just knowing your timing and answering with confidence, pace. Like you have to, the pace is a lot of it. You have to like answer a question and know you got it right, or like take your best guess and just move on. Like you can't have that be lingering
Don't
in
be
your
double
head.
checking.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then you're wasting time on this one question when you could
Exactly.
be spending on another question that you may know for sure. I remember like the first time I took it, I ended up guessing on like the last 10 questions because I took like a million years like on the first few questions.
Yeah, so I mean, I know your entire like school life you're told check your work, check your work. SAT, not really the time to check your work. You just have to do it, and that's why practicing beforehand is so important, whether it's online or a
Yeah,
book.
do the practice tests. Those are
Yeah,
like
practice test, absolutely.
yeah.
They have them on the College Board website. You can take a full-length practice test, just lock yourself in a room, no food, no water, some newspaper, and just take the test. Just go for it. I mean, it sucks, but like once you do it, you're gonna feel so accomplished, and it gives you your score too, so you know like what range you're in and where you need to improve on, which is perfect. And also pay attention in your high school math classes. I know they suck and our teachers suck, but you have to pay attention because that stuff will show up. And yeah, even though it's all the way through algebra 2, they're gonna pick the hardest things in algebra 2, guys. Come on. We're better than this. Don't let them beat us. You can do this.
I saw some trig in there. I'm not even kidding.
How dare they? How dare they? I have to press sign because also bring a graphing calculator. Don't show up with a 4-function calculator, please. They tell you that's okay. It's not okay. It's not what you need.
Yeah.
You need everything you can. Even if you don't know how to work your calculator, like Carolina and I with all the Mr. M's calculators, just bring it anyways. Hopefully you can find a way to use it. But did you take, so I'm taking it you didn't take any subject tests then?
Yeah, I did. I did
You did?
yeah, I forgot. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're
I
good.
did history and I think it was I can't remember. It had to be like I think it was history and English.
And did you
I
send
don't
those?
Yeah, I did send them.
Yeah.
I did pretty well on them. So I sent them. I was like
Well, perfect. I'm like on the other side. I took 2. I think I took like chemistry and like the hardest math one, and I didn't do super well. So I didn't send them, and that's okay.
Why
They
would
don't.
you do chemistry?
Because I'm doing like engineering, so I was like, oh look, like it's perfect. And yeah, I took a shot on that, and it's okay. Like I said, they don't
But
have
you
to
don't
say
have to
anything
send
you
it.
don't want them
Yeah,
to
you
say.
don't have to send it.
Exactly. So if it's a requirement for your application, yes, you should take it and send it and just take the shot. You know, don't like not send in your application because you sucked on the test. But if it's optional, then maybe consider not sending it. You know, it's up to you. So now let's talk about AP just a little bit. I forgot to mention this. Did you take a lot of APs? I feel like you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would suggest that, not because the AP tests are super important, but for me it was a lot of the GPA boost that
Yes.
comes with the AP classes, because the AP classes aren't necessarily, some of them are a lot harder than others. Some of them are like easy A's and others are
Yeah.
like you cannot pass. It
Discovered.
depends. Yeah, it's Mr. We won't say names, but Mr. Anyway, it depends. It depends on the teacher. It depends on the test. Don't get too worked up over the AP exam. Just get in the classroom, try your best, I would say.
Yeah, I think for me it was definitely like I'm really glad. Like, you know, at first I hated it because a lot, like you said, like some of the classes were really, really hard. But
Yeah.
if you did well on the AP test, when you get to college, that shit's gonna show because it's like, oh, you have this credit, so you don't need to take this class or this requirement.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I had a lot of those where I was like, oh, you already have that credit from high school, so don't worry about that one. Yeah.
And that saves you money too, which
Yeah.
is so yes, I know I just said don't worry about the test. Worry about the test. I take that back. You need to save money. Sorry. Try the test. Try your best on the test. Of course, try the test and study for those. I think the best way to study in general is with groups. Anyone you have in that class, meet up with them after the school. Just go at it.
Yeah, and one thing that we did have a couple of these like courses offered in Okinawa, but in the States it's like way more. There's more like variety. Is the college courses like in high school? I remember
Yes,
they
yes,
had
yes.
what like UMUC. They had a couple like English and like history or I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
remember all the other ones, but I wish I would have done that because it's so much more, honestly, it's way more helpful than AP classes. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, the AP classes, they're a GPA boost, but like in the long run, I know kids who took a lot of college courses in high school, and then like they're chilling. They're just, like riding through college. They're doing all
Yeah,
these, fun classes.
must be
When
nice.
Yeah, it must be nice. Yeah, that's one thing
Uh,
to take advantage of.
yeah, so then once you get your applications completed, you send them out, you can do, I always recommend early action or not early action because early decision is bonding, I believe.
Yeah.
So if you get into that school, then you have to go to that school. That's essentially what that means. If that's the only option, let's say it's like a school that you absolutely want to go to. Like it's something like if I get in here, I'm not going anywhere else, then go ahead and do early decision maybe. But I would always recommend getting your application in early because then you can get your stuff back sooner, which is always great for planning purposes and knowing when you're going to get on campus
Yeah.
or sitting in your room on Zoom, whatever it is. But so after you got into William and Mary, what was the adjustment like? You mentioned earlier moving back to the States, but just getting to college, what was that entire process like for you? Just getting there.
It was very it was a bittersweet moment, right?
Hmm.
Like I'd worked so hard in high school, and my entire like educational career, like my parents have always been on it. Like education has been number one priority,
Yeah.
and I've always liked school, and so I was pretty proud of myself. Um, but at the same time, I was like, oh my god, I've never lived on my own.
Hmm.
I'm living with all these strangers.
Exactly.
Um, and my parents, they dropped me off and then they went back to Japan. So I
Unbelievable.
was
How dare they?
yeah, and so I was like, it wasn't one of those things where I could just drive up and see them
Yeah.
when I was feeling like homesick. So I mean, I had my grandma, I had my other family members here. I would come for like breaks.
Mhm.
um but yeah, it definitely was really hard in the beginning. I didn't have a good roommate situation, so it was like 10
Yeah.
times more harder than it should have been. But yeah, but and I think it was like middle of first semester I started branching out. I started meeting a bunch of people in my
Mhm.
classes. That's how I met some of my closest friends right now. um I think one of the things that I learned is just like I don't know. The thing about college is I didn't mind being alone. Like I didn't like in the beginning I was very like to myself, very like shy, and a lot of I noticed that a lot of, because it is a state public school, a lot of the kids already knew each other because they'd gone to like school in
Yeah,
Nova
that
or like in the
happens.
same
Yeah.
high school. And I didn't really have anything to connect, in that way with them. But I think just letting go, like college is so much different from like high school and middle school. Like there is
Mhm.
like no like there's no such thing as being weird. Like that's one of the big things is like people embraced weirdness, like, or like being unique, like you know like this
Yeah.
is I'm not saying I was part of this, but like we have freaking clubs for like Harry Potter fans, and
Yeah.
like those people go hard for Harry Potter.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like they all bond because of that. Like they're all really close
Yeah.
friends. They do everything together. And so I think just embracing like that aspect, for me it was like my cultural heritage. Like I could connect with people, either because, oh, you're a military kid, or
Yeah.
oh, your mom's Peruvian, or like like
Hmm.
stuff like that. That's kind of what I connect with people on. Or even if you don't have anything to connect with, like I mean, me and my roommate, I thought we were gonna get so long because on paper, check, 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 we
Check. Check. Check.
everything we had in common, but then we didn't get along. So honestly, like you don't like just meeting different people with different experiences. Like I don't know, like that was like for me like one of the best things that I did. Like seeking other people who who aren't like me.
Yeah.
I ended up finding like a lot of cool friends, to hang out with, and support me throughout. Because we're all like on our, like a lot of the times, a lot of us are living on our own for the first time, so a lot of us
Mhm.
are struggling in the same way. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. It's a great place to be able to express yourself freely, pretty much. I mean, that's what it is, and all your, like you said, weirdness, anything you have, like go out there. Just, I think it's important to be yourself, and that's kind of what the
Yeah,
application,
that's what
that,
it is.
yeah,
Yeah, because I was just so like in this show, like I'm trying to be
mhm.
cool. Like I don't want people to see that I'm weird.
Cool
But like,
Carolina, yeah.
yeah. But then like you just kind of realize like I remember seeing like this guy who was wearing a unicorn onesie and he was riding
Nice.
what's it called, unicycle around campus, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, why am I like, why am I, worried about what other people are gonna think about me? Because I was afraid of making the wrong impression.
Hmm.
But I was like, whatever, I don't freaking care. Like, and then
Exactly.
I started enjoying myself. Yeah.
Sometimes that's all it takes to see a guy in a unicorn onesie riding a unicycle. I mean, that's really all it is.
Yeah.
And the entire application process is about that too, writing your essay, finding out what's unique about yourself, and I don't know, kind of embracing it, I guess. And it's not that
Yeah.
deep, guys. It's not that deep. But yeah, that's get to college. And you said I would highly recommend. I had a bad roommate situation too. I know we haven't talked about this, but I completely
Wait,
understand what you're
you
talking
have?
about.
You
Yes,
didn't tell
yes,
me
yes.
about
It was
this.
terrible. It was absolutely awful.
Oh
So
my god. Oh
if
my
you
god.
if you know
You
someone
cannot
going,
learn from my story.
I know, I didn't learn. I didn't learn. I thought you were overreacting because you kind of do that sometimes. I was like, yeah, it couldn't have been that bad. You were. But yes, if you know someone going to the school the same year as you, don't be afraid to reach out and ask them, hey, do you want to be roommates? Like, worst thing
Yeah.
they can say is no, and then
No,
like you get
yeah.
to find someone else. But I mean, go ahead. And if you know someone that's older as well that goes to the school already, reach out to them. I mean, they're like everyone's living on their own. It doesn't matter that much what year you are. Just, I don't know, make friends, talk to people who you might not even have been that close with at your high school. Go for it.
I
Uh,
don't like about the roommate thing. I don't think you guys have to be best friends, but when
I agree. Yeah,
it's different when you don't feel comfortable in your room or you feel
sure.
like like definitely that's
Grimy vibes. Yeah.
yeah, like if you guys don't vibe, like it's so much harder to live there and enjoy your experience. Especially when you have to pay. Like I paid a freaking that's the only thing I paid for housing. It was a freaking arm and a leg for
Yeah,
housing. So I was like, I'm not paying for this to live with her. No, thank you.
absolutely.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. So if you get there and you know, like pretty soon within the first few weeks, hey, this is not going to work. Like there's some things about this person, A, B, or C, that I cannot live with. Just find someone to talk to about it. It can be a painful process. I'm not sure what it was like for you, but I mean,
Yeah.
it can be like they really do not want you to move rooms. They
They
really
don't.
try to avoid that.
Yeah.
So you have to really like just be defiant about it. You kind of have to be assertive about it, saying, "Hey, I'm paying for this. I'm living here. I'm not going to live with them."
Have your grievances and then
Hmm.
also like make sure that you talk to your roommate first
Hmm.
because you can't try to move out without even addressing the issue.
I mean, you
um
could try, but
you could try,
it's
yeah,
gonna
but for
be
my case
awkward.
I tried addressing the issue so many times
Yeah.
and it got to the point where she would just get defensive, and I'm not saying that I was an angel either, like I'm not
Hmm.
saying whatever, she probably
For sure.
didn't like the things that I was doing, but when you can't even talk and communicate, that's like the worst situation to be in.
Hmm.
Like my next roommate was an angel compared to her. We weren't best friends, but we did vibe.
Yeah.
we I really got lucky because her roommate had I mean, I don't know what the situation was, but she had it
Hmm.
and she ended up withdrawing from the school. I don't know what it was,
Oh wow.
but it happened around the same time I requested a room change. And so I got in there and we could not be any more opposite. Like she was very quiet, reserved, and but we still vibed, and if she didn't like something I did, I didn't like something she did, we told each other about it and it was so easy.
Communicated. Yeah.
Yeah, we told each other about it and no one had, nobody was butthurt, and we fixed the issue and then we continued to live, normally, and it was
Hmm.
fine. It was awesome.
It definitely is an adjustment you have to make living with a stranger. But
Yeah.
I mean, you have to find the vibe. That's all it is. That's all it is, guys. That's gonna wrap up our guide for military kids going to college. I hope this is helpful in some way. I really enjoy doing this, actually, just talking it all out. It's a lot of stuff. I know it can be a lot to hear and take in all at once. If you have any questions, I'm sure you can message Carolina if you want. She's very friendly at times, but you can
Yeah.
also ask me. I can help you with particularly with essays. I love helping kids with that and any SAT stuff. Yeah, for sure. Reach out, and I'll see you guys next week. Anything else, Carolina? Say bye to them. They're gonna 20. We'll see you in 20 more weeks. Yeah, there it is.